Welcome to another episode of Timeless Building and Business Strategies. This is Tony Johnson. Today I'm here with Ray Garfield. Ray, thank you so much for joining us, sir.
Pleasure to be with you.
Ray is with Garfield Public Private. And Ray, could you tell us a bit about yourself and what you guys do?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. I it's been an interesting career getting to this point. We've had this company now for the last 28 years, and our firm is fairly unique in the real estate development business. We call ourselves Garfield Public Private because the great majority of what we develop around the country is for public clients, public agencies like cities, counties, state agencies, universities, healthcare campuses, airport authorities, et cetera. So we geared up in the late 1990s to do help deliver essential public infrastructure to these public clients that wanted a faster, more efficient way of moving their projects forward than traditionally that they were allowed to do.
So, could you break that down a little bit? So, in essence, are you saying that as opposed to them going through the full design iteration process and putting projects out to bid, you guys are coming in at the concept stage and doing a design build option for them? Is that what we're saying?
I think that pretty well describes it. Certainly a couple of decades ago, almost 3 decades ago now, when we started this firm, the traditional manner of delivering public projects was first advertised for an architect and then design the building. And then once the designs were there, they'd put the designs out for contractors to bid on. And they'd have to take the lowest bidder. Conceptually, they're protecting the taxpayers and making sure that they hire the least expensive option. That proved to be very inefficient because after a while, contractors knew that they could bid low and then expect a lot of change orders in the process. So you hardly ever have a building that was built on time or on budget. And as you described it with design build, when that came into fashion beginning in the 90s, we were there to help create a different model where these communities could select a team. We could have the contractor and the architect designing and perfecting the designs ongoing as you went through concepts to schematics to design documents to construction documents. So when you got a guaranteed maximum price quote from the contractor and a schedule, that contractor knew the drawings he was evaluating. They knew that they could deliver this property in a certain period of time at a certain budget. So the end result was much superior to the old model. And that's a part of what we've done. The other part is that, also the traditional way of doing it is that if you want to build a courthouse, as an example, you'd put it on a public referendum. So you go to the voting booth, May or November, whenever that's going to be, and it's on the ballot. So you're going to vote yes or no. Do you allow the county to sell, a $200 million bond to build a courthouse? Or do you allow the school district to sell $1 billion in bond to build high schools and et cetera? And if the vote's no, then they can't do it. And if the vote is yes, then they'll go through this process. We've never developed a building that has been approved with general obligation bonds. For example, when we developed the courthouse for the city of Atlanta, it was not on a ballot. Wouldn't be on a ballot for 4 or 5 years at the time, according to the mayor. So we were invited there and we discovered that they had a source of revenue in the city other than the general fund, which was empowered by ad valorem taxes, sales taxes, all of that. They had 25 million a year in fines and forfeiture revenues coming into the city. And most of it levied by the judges in court. So we just needed about $4 or $5 million in a lease back so we could sell the bonds that would be used to design and build a new courthouse. And so we found a different funding mechanism. We create innovative, very efficient structures from a financing standpoint that'll help these deals move forward much faster generally. I mean, if we'd had to wait 4 or 5 years for a public referendum in Atlanta, you can't predict interest rates, you can't predict inflation. It would be a much more costly development in 4 or 5 years than what we were able to do within a year. So, and that's just an example of one of the close to $3 billion dollars worth of developments that we've done.
That's interesting. And I love that. I think, an instant question that comes to mind when I hear you say that is, so I'm assuming, did you already have a relationship here established? So I can't, I guess what I'm trying to ask is, did you go in there when they're wanting to build a courthouse and them say it's going to be 4 to 5 years, not knowing anything, and say, oh, well, let's look at some of your other sources of revenue, and we'll put this package together and we'll get this thing built in a year? Or did you have a pre-existing relationship already with that?
We had a pre-existing relationship through our general contractor. Garfield Public Private was really created in 1997. It was the year after I had closed a merger. I was chairman of a public company. Up until 1996, we sold the company to Syntex Corporation, which is the second largest home builder in the United States at the time. And I found myself without a job. I was out of a job after I
Hold
merged
yourself
that
out of a
company.
job. Yep.
Yeah. So the on my board of what was Vista Properties that merged with Syntex was a fellow that was on the board of Turner Construction Company in New York.
Mm-hmm.
And he became the CEO, chairman and CEO of Turner in 1996. And in early 1997, he invited me to talk about solving one of the issues that they had. So I worked for him for a year and sold a subsidiary of their company for them. And the following year, he asked me to create what is now Garfield Public Private. He didn't want to own any of our company because they're a great general contractor and they do lots of construction for private developers all over the world. So he didn't want a no-name firm called Garfield, which no one had ever heard of, seeming to have a close relationship for private developments. So we specifically targeted public developments where at the time private developers did not get involved. In fact, they still do to an extent stay away from it because they can't invest in and own public properties. So they'd rather, do their private developments, apartments, shopping centers, office buildings, industrial buildings, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So we just focused on for Turner for about 4 years. We were on a retainer with them and we created this business. So Turner's office in Atlanta was one of the ones that they had 44 offices nationally. Their Atlanta office
Mm-hmm.
called us and said, hey, we were at a Atlanta Falcons football game and with the judges, and they were complaining about being in a 50-year-old building. And this was a great need of theirs. So Turner brought us to Atlanta and introduced us to the judges and to the city. And then we were able to, in a few days, determine that there were going to be avenues to pursue to help them solve the problem, get out of a 50-year-old building into a modern, secure, safe building, and avoid that 4 to 5 year delay of getting a referendum on the ballot for the voters to agree to or to turn down. So you bet. 80% of our business, I think, is referred by either a general contractor, an architect, engineering firm, a big hotel management company like Hyatt or Hilton or Marriott, um, big management firm for performing arts centers or arenas like ASM or OVG, Oakview Group, the largest in the country. So consultants, many of the opportunities come through us through people that we've been on teams with before that know our skills and how we're able to, come up with some solutions that are greatly needed by these clients.
Yeah, I find this extremely interesting. So, we're on the GC side, so we're a commercial general contractor, nowhere near the size of Turner, obviously, but yes. So but yeah, so we run into this same challenge all the time. So with what you're saying, it's great to hear. And I don't know, even with you being around for 28 years, this there's definitely probably a lot of expansion opportunity still today for what you're doing, because this can be used anywhere. If you've got a system of going in and now have a track record of being able to, put these creative projects together, that is definitely appealing to contractors. So I could see contractors beating down your door. Of course, you have to have a contractor that is established, that is able to perform and has, this the county or the city wanting to partner with them. So for the public side, I completely understand that, and then you can find the public funds. And I'm assuming, just your guys' upside is a developer fee established with putting everything together. Is that how you're structured? Or are you in and out before the project breaks ground, or are you involved throughout?
We're involved throughout. I mean, we really are a development firm, but distinguished by the fact that our clients are in the public sector. And of course, in America, uh, we're the only nation in the world that has legislation that's been on the books for a century or more, allowing the sale of municipal bonds, tax exempt bonds for cities, counties, schools. Federal government's not tax exempt, but anything other than the federal government, you can do tax exempt financing, which is less expensive than conventional financing, right?
Mhm.
So, unlike a private developer, we're not often asked to make an investment. In fact, we just can't and still do something tax exempt. So, for most of our developments, we are an owner's rep, if you will, kind of an owner's rep on
Mhm.
steroids. But we're the team leader. We bring the architect and the contractor to the table. We bring with the contractor his subcontractors. We also interact with the financial advisors, the bond counsels, the underwriters, the attorneys. Um, and once we sell the bonds, of course, we are helping to oversee the designs. We have a couple of very well established architects within our firm that don't draw anymore, but they did for years. And now they interact with our architects. And we have some great construction management people coming out of the construction industry that are on site with the general contractor every day, making sure things stay on track, on budget, on time. Um, and and we're there when we open the building, cut the ribbon, have the grand opening, and in certain cases, and we're best known for doing convention centers and their headquarters hotels, or performing arts centers, event centers, expo centers, museums, and so forth. So, particularly with performing arts centers and hotels, we're able to stay on as the asset manager. So, if Marriott runs the hotel 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, we're there monthly, quarterly, annually. We're there to help sort of be an early warning radar with the general manager and so forth, make sure it's performing, make sure it's maintained, report to the bond council, report to the bank trustee for the bonds, or Standard and Poor's if those bonds are rated. So we do have a continuing role in a number of the properties that we complete. we're just
Wow.
we're a
I
team
mean,
member. We're a team member, Tony.
yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
and that's why a general contractor or an architect would refer something to us and say, "Hey, we know of a city here that needs XYZ piece of infrastructure." They're scratching their heads on how they can do it in a year or so. Could you guys come in and join us and talk to them? And that's the introduction that helps us move forward on projects.
Yeah, this is, what I say a lot of times, Ray, is you have to open your mind and, you know, you can't ever break barriers and do bigger things or, if you don't first envision and how to do it. And I'm going to be honest, I've been building going on 20 years at this point. This to me is never heard of it. It's, this is absolutely amazing. So yeah, when I look at your portfolio, yeah, with your convention centers, conference centers, you've worked for multiple hotel chains, right? And so not only are you guys doing great things, you've niched down, you've created a specialty, and there I can 100% guarantee there is a strong demand for your services in wherever you guys can get a stronghold. And I'm sure once you get in there, it then becomes a client, a repeat client, or a referral to other near townships where relationships are then moving you over. Right. So it's beneficial not only for the contractor for that initial connection. I'm sure that that contractor and you then can grow and expand because if you're able to do this for one area and that gets out, I'm sure anyone that they know in the next town over who's now never experienced that wants to see if it can be utilized in their area to get something through. Because the reality is, all of these local governments are in need of infrastructure upgrades and changes and waiting for referendums. And so, if you're able to come in and really speed up that process, man, you're benefiting the town and the community, and you're providing work for the community. And so I love the idea that you guys are then also coming in as an asset manager on the backside. You have the knowledge and understanding of the bonds and how to manage the whole process. When you say you got into this in 97 after you went and joined Turner, did you put this together while you were at Turner from 97, 96 to 97? Is that when you established and kind of put all this together?
Um, yeah, I want to distinguish something you said. Um, I didn't go to work for Turner. They retained our firm. We were arm's length.
Oh,
The
okay. So sorry.
Yeah, Turner did not want to own a development company. They were a contractor.
Mhm.
So we were retained by them to be an outside provider of this particular skill of helping develop more design build business for them, helping targeted clients of theirs to figure out how they could finance new big construction projects. So we were absolutely allied. I mean, for 4 years, we were almost exclusive to Turner because they're such a big company.
Mhm.
And then Turner was sold to a European organization. Our retainer lapsed. We still do business with Turner, but we do business with many of the top, call it 30 or 40 of the ENR 400 contractors around the country. So I wanted to distinguish that. Um, and I think that, uh, and as you've seen, we've done some pretty impressive things around the country. For the first, um, I guess, um, 8 years of our company, we couldn't get hired in Texas. We were a Texas company, but no one had heard of us. So we were hired by the Commonwealth of Puerto Rico to develop their new headquarters hotel for their convention center. We were hired by St. Joseph's Hospital in Paterson, New Jersey, and the state of New York to do a Department of Transportation office building, and by Los Angeles schools. So we really had to sort of be the expert from afar and develop some history. And then we won our first deal in Texas back in 2000 and I guess 7, and delivered a great hotel and conference center for Lubbock, Texas. We then were hired again by Lubbock, and in 2021 we delivered a $160 million performing arts center, the Buddy Holly, which is a world-class acoustic performing arts facility that serves the community. We're just completing some designs for the Lubbock County for an expo center of over 100 million. And you know, you said repeat business. There's certainly, we're proud of the fact that not just Lubbock, but other communities have hired us a second time and even a third time to do new projects once we performed on that first project. And at least after now 28 years in the business, we're pretty competitive in Texas as well. So, but still focus around the country.
So where is your, what is the goal of your company? How large are you trying to grow? How far are you trying to reach? You know, and how are you adapting to the technological changes we're going through right now?
You know, I guess I'd have to say that we just have a goal to protect our reputation and continually be successful. And whatever that means in terms of growth, in terms of employees and volume, we'll accept that as it comes. We created Garfield Asset Management about 3 years ago because we were turning out so many performing arts centers and you know, Durham's Performing Arts Center, Utah's Echoes Theater in downtown Salt Lake, and the Buddy Holly, et cetera, all the hotels that we've developed for cities around the country. We just felt like there was a good business model there to create. So we established Garfield Public Private, or you know, asset management. A couple of years ago, we created a company called Garfield Clean Energy. And one of our repeat clients, a city in Central Texas, had about 2,000 acres that they own and that was being farmed. And the mayor and city manager told us that they were hopeful of creating greater revenue for the city and something other than cotton farming. So we've been working for the last year now on getting this property approved for solar. And so coincidentally, the Stargate program that was announced by Musk and the president and so forth, is $500 billion investment in AI. Their announced first big development is in this city in Central Texas, where we have
Oh, wow.
this effort going to get approved for 3 or 4 or 500 megawatts of a solar farm. So we're optimistic about that. But it's a natural extension of our public-private business. In other words, cities need more than just a new courthouse or a new convention center and hotel or performing arts center. And solar is one of the more topical growth industries that you see as well. So we're doing that. We're talking about our expertise in hotels goes back 40 years or more. When I was on Wall Street capitalizing financing for major hotels. And so we are talking seriously about establishing an investment program to acquire existing hotels that need significant property improvement programs. So if we can buy them right in the right location, the right market, make those improvements, we can probably have a pretty effective capital investment program as well. So I think we just take we're let's just say we're a cautious organization, thoughtful, and want to take steps when we really feel like they're the right steps to take.
Yes, sir. Yeah, I think it speaks volumes whenever we have a company that's, been in business almost 3 decades, right? That you guys have stayed true to your core values. So I love hearing that, protecting your reputation, because reputation is all that we have. And, you've clearly defined um, something that gives you an advantage in the marketplace and niche down and rinsed and repeated. And that is the key to success with most businesses, and that create longevity. So that's amazing. And once you have that stable foundation, to speak to what you're saying, then you can, expect to add different levers that complement what you're already successful in, which it sounds like you guys are planning for, and continued growth. And so I love to hear everything that you're saying, because there's never a magic bullet with any successful business, no matter the industry. It is based on reputation, longevity, um, and being great at what you are doing successfully, and then being able to replicate it over and over again is what creates the long-term success. So I love to hear all that. Something that, as we look through, you do other things as well. It looks like you're in sports and entertainment. And so, doing parking garages, you guys have done other things as well. I think it's had office. So besides those, could you give us an example of a couple private ones that you've done, or is everything that I know with the hotels, obviously a lot of those aren't private, right? So what are some private projects that you're working on now?
Well, yeah, over the last 28 years, each of the hotels that we've done has been a public-private partnership. Only one of those hotels has been financed in a conventional manner. The city wanted us to do that, so we brought in our own money and other people's money, friends of the firm, and developed the hotel. But the city and let's say high net worth individuals or foundations made significant contributions on the public side in this public-private partnership in order to do that. Now, in the last year and a half, 2 years, we have led the design of a private hotel in the North Dallas area for a Japanese company. Toyota's North American headquarters is located in Plano, Texas. This Japanese company wanted to build a Japanese style hotel near Toyota. And so we have collaborated with them, sort of taken over the leadership of working with the architect and the contractor, help select the contractor, taking this thing through concepts and schematics and DDs, et cetera. So yeah, if we find a client that has substantial capital, doesn't need the kind of public-private skills that we've got, but really wants to build an impressive project, whatever it may be, we can act as a fee-only developer for them in these areas where we have this expertise. As I mentioned, now we're really well known for doing these convention hotels. And you could say also that same public-private model can be done for airports, airport terminal hotels, college campus hotels, healthcare campus hotels, and of course the city or municipal, conference or convention hotels. So there's a pretty broad swath of the hospitality industry that's there. But in the cultural arts area, where we started by being the developer of the Durham Performing Arts Center, which is hugely successful, um, and and then went from Durham to Salt Lake City, and helping to lead the development of the Eccles Theater, and then to back to Lubbock after we had developed their hotel to be asked to help develop their performing arts center there. We've brought on some outside talent that had worked for a competitor in this cultural arts area. So, we have a really deep resume of not only performing arts um, arenas, event centers, museums, and so forth. So that's at least half the business that we do around the country right now. Working in Sarasota with the Sarasota Orchestra development, um, working on the phase 2 of Rothko Chapel in Houston, Texas, um, and other cultural arts undertakings. A major art facility, art museum in the country where we're going to help expand and modernize a very large facility they've been in for 100 years. Those things are real targets of ours as well. So,
Now,
and,
Ray,
it's,
it
yeah, go ahead.
sounds you've obviously been extremely successful in business, and this you've taken on massive projects. You know, when you look at your run up to where you are now, was there anything pivotal in your career that really helped you skyrocket and get to the next level?
A couple of really important events. Um, I started my own firm when I was, I guess, um, probably around 27 years old. After spent the first number of years in the Navy as a pilot, but then I worked for Ross Perot for a couple of years in his electronic data systems company, and learned a lot there because I had a great role of interviewing and recruiting clients all over the country. But I wanted to stay home because I had a young family, so I started my own little real estate company. And in 1981, I sold that firm to Merrill Lynch. That was one of the defining moments in my fledgling real estate career of being able to list properties in the $3 to $5 million range at my little Garfield firm to having a Merrill Lynch business card and all of a sudden listing $50 million properties because automatically, you're
Oh,
looked
wow.
at as maybe somebody that's more successful. Um, Solomon Brothers recruited me from Merrill Lynch back in the 1980s when they were the king of Wall Street, inventing commercial mortgage securities. That was the second real defining moment in my real estate career, is working with the mover and shaker on Wall Street at the time, and innovating commercial mortgages. Um, so uh, that was sort of my PhD in real estate finance. So I've been able to use that very effectively in this particular company. And I guess the last role I mentioned, that I was CEO of this public company that had taken out of bankruptcy. I was really the turnaround CEO. And when I sold it to Syntex Corporation in 1996, and interesting point of it, I took this company out of bankruptcy in early 1992. And of course, that was at the depths of a recession that we had in the country. The catchphrase was "Stay alive till 95."
Yes, I did.
so so I I turned this company around, and sell it successfully in 1996. And the irony is that in 1997, every CEO in the country, whether they were great or whether they were a doofus, looked like they were great because of the economy.
Yeah.
And so I figured, well, I had a great success as a CEO of a public company. I'm sure another public company will hire me. And in 1996, 1997, I got offered a lot of number two jobs. And I just didn't want to do the number two job. So I started my own company. And so 97 was our first year with Garfield Public Private, if you will. But certainly built on all the experience that I had. And I guess particularly at Solomon Brothers, understanding Wall Street and the capital markets, understanding public bond offerings, municipal bond offerings, et cetera. That was, certainly the key building block of doing this new company that I didn't really want to do, but I also didn't want to be a number two anymore. So,
I love that. Well, I mean, that's it. That's what I always say. If you understand your strengths and weaknesses in life and what you will do and what you won't do, that's half the way to starting your path. So that is amazing. Ray, it has been a pleasure, speaking with you today, getting to learn a bit about your path and what your firm does. I think, for me, I will be reaching back out. Just I've had about 15 opportunities rolling through my head as we're speaking today. So, I can only imagine where your company can go. And I sincerely appreciate you taking the time and spending with us today and sharing some of your experiences. So thankful for that. And thank you for joining us today, Ray.
thank you a lot, Tony. I enjoyed it as well.
All right. You have a great day,
Look
sir.
forward to talking.
Appreciate it.
Righto. Bye bye.
Bye.